know many of you have been involved in CEC and the compact process for quite a while. And this year, we really wanted to be able to address the big priorities at the national level, but really be able to personalize them at the local level, with our districts sharing their work and in many ways saying, you know, this is our humble place where we are, and being able to share that work, but really involve you in the conversation, and hopefully being able to connect you in your district to where you are in your process, but also hopefully connect you with districts in CEC and their work that they're doing in teacher effectiveness. I'm Pam Rosa. For most of you, I think we've connected in some way, but I just wanted to confirm who I am. Sometimes it's hard to remember, some days. So we're so delighted to have you here today. Carrie Sadwell is also here with me through the consortium, and we're going to be facilitating the work of several districts sharing out where they are in the process of teacher effectiveness. I was just with the Danielson group 2 weeks ago, and Charlotte, of course, was there. And it was this is how she started our conversation that we had for many days. And she said, teacher effectiveness is hot. And we're like, yeah. And that's kind of the good and the bad of it. So today we really want to be able to take stock with where we are and what we're doing and what we're thinking about as possible next steps as we move forward. Start with you first taking stock of where you are with your teacher evaluation process and how it connects to the bigger picture of your human capital priorities. As you can see, there's the box down here at the teacher evaluation. What I'd like you to think about as a team, and spend about 10 minutes doing this conversation, is thinking about, if this is our target, we hope teacher evaluation is not a bad target, but it's really is able to give us the conversation and the priorities and the standards about that teaching work. Pekin is going to share with us the way that they started their work in the framework is really through hiring and interviewing processes. So for them, they might actually draw a solid line between teacher evaluation and hiring. If it's built into your strategic planning, your resource priorities, then you could even make a very bold line. If it's an informal piece, then you can put a dot in. If there's no connection right now with your hiring and your teacher evaluation, then there's an opportunity for you to talk about. One of the things we really want to support you in is thinking in that full compendium of services, using the framework as our guide. Many of you might have heard that on Friday, 2 weeks ago, at the PAC, the Performance Evaluation Advisory Committee meeting, the state committee that is given the priorities to be able to put the meat on the bones of the law, our new law, just adopted and recommended as the default framework, the framework for teaching. The framework isn't just about evaluation, and as we know, it actually wasn't even written for evaluation purposes. It was written to be able to frame out the art and science of teaching. So we're going to be hearing from 4 districts. Pekin District 108 is going to be providing us thinking around not only their hiring practices, but how they use that to connect them to other parts of the human capital around the framework. Troy District 30C is going to provide their freshly developed aligned FARA evaluation plan. And then talk about what they're using, how they're using that to be able to go to that next step of being able to embed that into their culture around teacher effectiveness. Elgin District, our second largest district in the state, is sharing with us their journey in being able to not only adopt the framework, but to be able to use it as an evaluation tool and to train and support administrators, evaluators, as they use it in the process. So what does that look like? All of us know this is going to take training and ongoing work. What does it look like when they'll share their work? And then Northbrook Glenview, District 30, is going to be talking about how they used a process, a place that was already there available, their PLC meetings, to be able to really continue the conversation as they develop their evaluation process, to really make sure everyone had a working knowledge of what they were going to be able to be evaluated on. We talked a little bit about this. One of the things that we have found is that if we approach this as a systematic way of thinking, that if the student learning is connected in the middle, then that criteria can really take on a new way of thinking. I kind of smile and it makes me sad too to say that student growth is sometimes considered over here and teaching skills is over here. we know that teaching skills is a critical input to student learning. So those effectiveness criteria are really captured through how we use them to increase the student learning. And ultimately, we really want to be able to have those effective criteria linked not only to our appraisal or evaluation, whichever way you talk about that summative quality assurance process, but also to our coaching and mentoring, thinking about using that language, that priorities in there, and our professional growth priorities, and also recruiting and hiring. So if we want to evaluate them on these criteria, how do we recruit for that? How do we mentor for that? How do we grow that? So critical thinking that we want to be able to share today. One of the things that we also want to keep in mind is that teaching is broader than just the teacher in the classroom, and it really encompasses all those specialist work too. So knowing that this conversation is not just for teachers, but this is for all those specialists in their planning and preparation. If you're a classroom teacher, you're in the learning environment, but the specialists have this broader social environment as well as district environment. The domains, knowing that instruction and delivery of services work together as we focus on our work as professionals and ultimately those responsibilities we have. I don't have time to read the whole book. Chapter 3 is it. It gives you the foundational pieces. It gives you the big three of the framework. It gives you the domains, the components, the elements, and it gives you the themes, and it gives you the levels of performance. With that idea, if we put the book, the framework in the middle, we really hope to be able today to build those collective, collaborative conversations. Knowing that we want to be able to have conversations that certified staff, specialists, and teachers between the evaluator, as well as that mentor coach in our PLCs. And there's some conversation, and you'll have to decide what that is, between the evaluator and the mentor. For sure, we want the evaluator to be informing and sharing priorities. And then at some point, is there a conversation that needs to be reciprocal? Not in an evaluative way, but in an understanding, collaborative way. On the left-hand side is the ways that we are able to move forward without any money. On the right-hand side is the ways that we'll take money at the state level to be able to move forward. So that's really the unconditional and conditional. It's based upon funding. Even if you move to 4 levels, you might have been at 2 or 3. That will change nothing if we don't change the conversation, if we don't think about the process, and if we don't think about how we are going to grow our practice together. So I wanted you to make sure you understood PAC's role is they have some subcommittees. One of their tasks that they are asked to do is they are going to be determining the teacher and principal default systems. 2 weeks ago, they did that for both the principal and the teacher. The framework for teaching for the teachers, overall default plan, and then Illinois is going to develop their homegrown process for principal evaluation. You're also going to be able to develop a pre-qualification process. We don't know exactly what that looks like, but we know it's going to be significantly different than our current evaluator qualification process, in that there's going to be videos that evaluators will be asked to watch. They'll be asked to collect evidence of practice. They'll be asked to sort that evidence based upon the criteria, and they'll be asked to come to a inter-rater agreed upon level of performance. About talking about the framework and being able to understand the shifts that happen when we move from unsatisfactory, which we know there's a line between that and the other aspects of the framework, the needs improvement, which many of us have now situated with basic, proficient, and then distinguished, which the state calls excellent. And I know many of you used excellent in the past. This is a different kind of excellent than the other excellent was. So the language and the book is a really critical thing for us to study, so that we just don't say, well, I was excellent in the last process, so I must be excellent in this process. Finally, just a couple other things. There is going to be a minimum expectation, a significant level is what they call that the state PAC team will determine. You know, rumors are out there, 30%, 40%, but what they will share is that there is this minimal expectation of what will be included in your overall evaluation plan. And then the other parts will be your determination. That significance level has not been determined at this point. The methods for measuring student growth. That's a subcommittee in and of itself. We have to appreciate the challenging task that team, that subcommittee has been asked to do. They are moving very slowly, they are moving very purposely, and they are not rushing into anything. And in some ways, if that was the result of not getting money for Race to the Top, that's a good thing. Also, there's a process for controlling student characteristics. This is what we call those mitigating factors. So what are going to be the things that we can say that students that have these mitigating factors do not have to show the same amount of growth, that year growth, as others? Those factors are also being carefully considered.